Welcome back to Midwest eSports Formula One, and tonight we have a special race for you. This is the Interdivision Invitational that takes place in the off-season for Midwest. So the format for this particular race, we have drivers from all four divisions participating today, and the cars are using realistic performance. Normally in the racing league, drivers are assigned to teams, but the cars work, handle, perform exactly the same, just to make it fair for an online competition. But we now have realistic performance turned on, so the Red Bull will be the fastest car. Your Alfa Romeo, your Alfa Tauri will be the slower cars. So there will be different handling, different performance available for these drivers. To make this somewhat more fair, the drivers from Division 4 are racing in those top cars, the Red Bull, the McLaren, and then our drivers from Division 1 are in the worst performing cars, the Alfa Romeo, the Alfa Tauri, and so on. So we will have an interesting mix of action out here on the course. We can see drivers have to get used to feeling out these cars. When you race 15 races in a season with a car handling the exact same way, except for how you set it up, and then you jump into a car that performs differently, it can take a bit to get used to, and I'm sure some drivers haven't practiced too much behind the wheel. This one is all about the fun, so it's going to be exciting out there on the track. I already see a couple drivers commenting about that too in the chat. Peter, who is in Ferrari tonight, saying that he hopes everyone's ready to watch him embarrass Ferrari more than their strategists do on a weekly basis, which might be challenging, but we'll see this season. And Valentine, who we are watching now in the Aston Martin, saying that he is using 0 assists, so he's just going to chill in the back and look pretty. Depending on the division that they race in, they have different assists available for them. So if someone is going from some assists to 0 assists, we might also see some issues with that too. Do have a couple times placed right now. Mackie in the AlphaTauri with a 123, but Fuse in the Mercedes a 122.9. This is also a full qualifying session, so it started with 20 minutes on the clock, a bit longer than our normal ones, and then the race will be normal length for the league. We'll also mention at the top here that Nick is currently working on a personal project, so he is not available right now to do some commentary, but I wanted to jump on this race. This is a fun middle of the off-season special race, and my cousin is also racing tonight. Bill 123 in the Red Bull. He's a driver in Division 4, won the Constructors' Cup with McLaren just this past season, so congratulations to them. And he will be racing in the top car alongside Moose MTZ. He gets a qualifying time of 124.793. Excited to see what he can do in this car. Nick just mentioning too that he does not like being on the other side of the stream. It is a very weird feeling to watch something and not be a part of it when it's something that you normally do. So I'm sure he has some commentary rattling along in his head. I won't be getting those personal jokes that he likes to tell, but I'm sure he'll be messaging me some of those as he is watching this race tonight. I also know that a lot of our family is watching the race because I am commenting and my cousin is racing, so exciting to see what happens tonight. This is also a track that I haven't raced too much. I don't know if it's one of the more popular tracks, but it's not one of those iconic F1 tracks. So it's also very flat. Not the most exciting to race, but this one is very wide open too. There's lots of area to run off if you need to. So it is a good choice for this interdivision race where you have drivers of different abilities and used to different assist levels racing each other. And as we approach the 5-minute mark, we just have a new fastest lap from Gabby Lan in the Ferrari, a 1:22.112. I also saw some people saying if I was talking, I can't hear them. I've been looking behind the scenes too. We may at some point have a driver join us for some color commentary, but I also saw my mom saying she could help with color commentary, and Nick highly recommending that idea. So even if she wouldn't see the screen, I'm sure she has some stories to tell of both me and my cousin. So not something I don't think the world's ready to hear just yet. We do have most of the drivers in the pits waiting for those final few minutes of qualifying to get back out there and set one or two more flying laps. Usually like to wait until they have a lighter fuel load, fresh tires, the track's worn in a little bit more. So we'll see who can go fastest. Currently the Ferrari, followed by Tauri and Alfa Romeo. No surprise, we have two of the leading drivers from Division 1 this past season. Race Day 2016, who finished second, I believe, in the Drivers' Championship behind Scarenzi. And then Callie Robb, who was also in the Ferrari. Los Mandingos in the Mercedes is improving on his time as well, heading into Sector 3, about 0.2 up, so he could jump into 8th place, potentially, maybe 7th. We'll see if he can pick up the pace just a little bit more in Sector 3. And he does not improve his time, so he will sit in 9th. We also have the Mercedes of Fuse Rogue up in 4th, but is out of the qualifying session, so that'll be the best place he can potentially be. We also have MMR Peter, who just set a 1:24.269, good for 12th, but he is still out on track. And Knuckles, who is in 14th, heading into Sector 2 and just slightly slower than his previous time. Looks like we also have others retiring from the session. We have Gabby Land, Race Day, Travis Scott, Mackie Marquis, and Nikki. Not sure if that is due to the connection of this lobby or if they are just done setting their qualifying time for now and waiting for the race to happen. Looks like Knuckles has chosen to go into the pits, so he will abandon that lap. Peter is also slower than his best. We have Aston Martin's in 18th and 19th. Valentine starting his second to last lap potentially. Callie Robb also out of the session. We also have Monkey Mafia in the McLaren, another top-tier driver yet to set a time. He may have been waiting for the final moment to see where he can place on a single quali lap. Callie Robb saying full quali. Does that mean it's like the regular F1 where we will have quali 2 and quali 3? I've not actually played through a full quali in this game or watched one yet, so if that's the case, we'll see some more action. I have confirmation, so working just like the real Formula One, The top 15 drivers from this session will move on to Quali 2, and then the top 10 drivers from Quali 2 will move to Quali 3. So those top drivers probably dropped out thinking they are safe enough. We have a few drivers left to cross over the track. Chief Braids jumps up into 5th. He is safe. Let's take a look down at the potential cut line. We have Gunner, Illbill, Moose MTZ, Anbu Mason, and Valentine looking at cut opportunities. Illbill may be the first to cross the line here. Slightly slower than his lap. He needs to find 0.3 of a second in this final corner to jump and make it to Quali 2. And he will stay at 17. Let's take a look at Gunner in the Williams. Trailing just behind one of the Aston Martins. Might get a good slipstream off of that in the final straight. Is it enough to tow him up? It is not. He will also stay in 17th. So we have just Monkey Mafia and Anbu Mason, who is improving on his time a bit, but I do not know if it is enough to jump up. It will not be, and Monkey Mafia goes into the pit. Ray will be the last driver through to Quali 2. Excuse me, Peter DRH. Ray just bumping up ever so much. Looks like this is our potential final for Quali 1. So the drivers cut from this round will be Monkey Mafia, who will start the race in 16th, Knuckles in 17th. The rest were cut off from my view there, but I'll mention them when I can. And here we are. Knuckles will start in 17th, Illbill in 18th, Anbu Mason in 19th, and Valentine 94 in 20th. We'll be back in just a moment with Q2 for the Interdivision Invitational. And we are back with Quali 2 here in the Interdivision Invitational. This one just a 15-minute session. I believe Q3 will be a 10-minute session. So it'll be the final shootout to decide the starting position for tonight's race. Several drivers following very closely out of the pit lanes, and we will see who gets out there first. I believe it is Fuse Rogue on his out lap, so we will jump on board to witness how sweeping a lot of these corners are at the Lusail International Circuit. We do have a very long finish line straight, and then heading into these constant bending corners, we saw a lot of track limit penalties in the real life race here in F1 just in the past season. We also had blistering heat, which made the conditions not pleasant for the drivers. Thankfully, our sim racers shouldn't have to deal with too much of that tonight. Valentine saying it is a terrible track to have no assists on. There are some very tight corners, not much bank to them either. So a tricky one for sure for these drivers to master. But even if they're out of qualifying in the bottom 5, they still have an opportunity during the race, because this one could get very hectic, very interesting. We've seen lots of safety cars in this league before, sometimes 4 or 5 safety cars in a race. So anything can happen. And I know some of these drivers will be having fun out there. I also know my executive producer, my mom, Dockworthy Dame, sent me a photo maybe leading to some of our love for racing in the family that can pop up here. This is my cousin Ilbill123 on the left racing, myself in the middle, and then his sister, my other cousin Jackie, on the right, and some karts that our grandpa built for us to drive around. I believe they were electric cars, custom built wood frames, and we could drive them all around the back. And I know that side of the family, all of our family has loved watching racing for a long time, so it's really cool to see him driving. I didn't pick up some of those talents, so I get to do a lot of commentary. Fuse Rogue with the first lap time in Q2 with a 1:23. That was about mid of the pack in Q1. Also sounds like a couple drivers experiencing some connection issues, so they will work at rejoining the lobby here in a bit. Gavilan in Ferrari setting a new fastest time for Q2. We have Mackie pulling back into the pits, not happy with that lap. As we get to Q2 and Q3, you will see more drivers setting that single lap time and then waiting in the pits to see if they need to make a move or not. Chief Braids in the McLaren going slightly over track limits. We'll see if it counts his time for now. It's a 1:23 up into third place. We also have Cali Rob in an Alfa Romeo. Still a red car for him. Still a beautiful livery and helmet. A little bit different to drive, I'm sure, than the Ferrari that he is used to. But it's not going to be too much of an issue for him. He is up to second. We also have a very long name. This is Visa Cash App VTEC 87 PR1. Driving an Alpine right now. Out on a flying lap, attempting to set a time. The Visa Cash App name is going to take a while to get used to in real F1 as well. I know they're going with RB or Racing Bulls, but they have Visa Cash App built into that name. Also lovingly known as V-Carb by some of the community. And VTEC is able to go to second, knocking Cali Rob down to third with a 122.993. We have race day out on his lap in the AlphaTauri. And race day will set a 122.575, 3/10 over Gabby Land in Ferrari. Mackie Marquis in AlphaTauri setting a new fastest lap, 122.266. So we have both AlphaTauris up on top, and an Alfa Romeo crossing the line. Sharia Coleslaw jumping up into third. We are starting to see that the slower cars may not matter too much tonight, but still 5 minutes to go in Q2 and all of Q3. But we do have the two backmarker teams of AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo on the podium. And then Cali Rob and the other Alfa Romeo down in sixth, who is still safe from the cut right now. We do have Peter DRH in the Ferrari sitting in 12th. And his first Q2 time was almost 2 seconds from the cut line. He is going to go back into the pits yet again. Perhaps swap those tires out one more time before going out onto the track. And joining just at the very end of that, looks like a collision in pit lane. I saw Sharia Coleslaw was involved. I did not see the other driver, but it may have been race day, the only other one out right now. And that is no good for Sharia Coleslaw. He is sitting in 10th, albeit 1 second over 11th place. He is now the next driver out. We have Gunnar, Addy in the Williams, and Nikki both out trying to make it into Q3. But Gunnar currently a second out of Q3. He's also going to go into the pits. He may have just enough time to get some tires, get out there, and do one more lap, but it's going to be close for him. Nikki, the other driver for Williams, is entering the final corner. Yet to set a time here in Q2, but he is looking like he may be on target. He's going to jump up into 4th place. A massive jump for Nikki in the Williams. And he'll be waiting on his teammate Gunnar to see if he can make it across in time. We have Travis Scott's doing donuts in the grass at the hairpin corner. May not have been as intentional as I first believed. Chief Blades out in the McLaren, currently just outside of Q3. And he goes up into 6th. It's going to keep him safe for Q3, and we'll get a McLaren car into the final qualifying session. But we now have Gunnar on his out lap. May not have enough time to get the final one in. Los Mandingos is in the pits, so that could do it for Q2. Looks like Chief Blade and VTech will both be allowed to cross the line, but they are through. So the drivers cut after Q2 will feature Ray, Gunnar, Peter, Los Mandingos, and Moose MTZ. While we wait for Q2 to wrap up, I do have one additional picture to show. For now, that my mom sent. That is not it. But she also mentioned that my cousin always had to be the one driving. So he is riding his tricycle, towing me, the commentator, in the wagon behind. Can't even think how old I would have been. That looks like maybe one, maybe two. Back in Canada still. So that is an old picture. Funny to see the family sending pictures of these on their TV as well. We'll have to get the whole family racing at some point or setting a time trial in Formula One. My mom's raced on my rig in VR. Some of them have also raced on Ill Bill's rig. And some of the family also plays F1 and other racing games too. We'll all be watching the race this weekend as well. Nick now saying too, we had the same green wagon. I can't tell what brand that is, but I imagine that was like the wagon to have, almost like a Razor scooter where every family had something like that. That is a classic 90s wagon. Just perfect for towing around anything you need, including children, cats, and dogs, or whatever you're taking outside. There's a picture of the dog riding in there with me too, where I'm smushed up against one side. We'll be heading into Q3 in just a moment, so we will be right back. And while I was gone, I just thought, Nick, that may have been the original G-Wagon, but the green wagon instead of the very fancy one people drive today. We are in Q3 of the Midwest eSports Interdivision Invitational race, where we do have drivers from all four divisions competing. The top drivers, Division 1, are in the slowest cars, Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri, and the Division 3, Division 4 drivers are in the fastest cars like the Ferrari, Aston Martin, McLaren, and Red Bull. Realistic performance is turned on as well, so you would expect the Red Bull cars to have a bit more performance in them. Doesn't mean it's easier to handle though, especially for some of our drivers. They can be very tricky to rein in. So this will be an interesting race for sure. We also had a collision in pit lane in Q2 involving Sharia Coleslaw and Race Day, I believe. So we just have 9 drivers here in Q3. Travis Scott's Fuse Rogue, Chief Braids, Mackie Marquis, Race Day, Gabby Land, Nikki, VTech, and Callie Robb. This qualifying session will decide the top order for the grid for the race that will follow in just about 15 minutes. We're excited to get that one underway too. We will have all of the drivers back out here on the track and tackling this unassuming but very challenging track. I mentioned this in Q2, but it is flat. There's not a lot of banked corners, so it looks like it might be easy to drive, but there are a lot of tight turns here in the middle section. can sometimes be a high downforce track, but there's a long straight as well. So you want to have a good enough balance where you can still get that top speed. And since there are no banked corners, it is very easy to lose grip and slide off of the track. There are plenty of painted runoff areas that make sure that you don't end up in the dust and the grass and just spinning recklessly, but it is still a challenge and can be for track limits too. Fuse Rogue in the Mercedes with the fastest time so far, I believe, of all qualifying sessions, a 1:22.187. Next closest is Nikki in the Williams, but we will have 7 more drivers setting laps here, and at least a couple more go-arounds on track. You see Fuse getting very close to, or VTech getting very close to Fuse, able to get around and continue on his lap. Now VTech's going to take his spot behind Fuse once again as they both enter into the pits. Race day in the AlphaTauri, setting a 1:22.044. Now he was our highest ranked driver out of the entire grid from last season. He finished second in Division 1 for the Drivers' Championship, just behind Scarenzi, but he did take home a Constructors' Cup for Ferrari. Now have his teammate Mackie Marquis in front of him, looking to see if they can get both AlphaTauris on the top of the grid. Based on the driver assignment earlier in today, AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo were the slowest cars, and we have 3 of them here in Q3. Now McLaren was the second best team, I believe, just behind Red Bull from the chart. So Chief Braids is in 5th. He would be a lower division driver who is still here in Q3. And Travis Scott's now the only driver out on track. I believe he'll be coming into the pits to get a fresh set of tires. This one I expect will be our longest waiting game, with drivers putting on fresh tires, waiting until they can get an out lap, and 1, maybe 2 flying laps. We have Travis Scott sliding into the pits. Can't see if there's any damage on his car. I don't believe so, but you can see some debris picked up on those tires. Thankfully, he'd be swapping those out here in just a moment. But they will wait to get that flying lap, and sometimes it is a waiting game.
The inaugural Qatar GP was won by Lewis Hamilton, starting at pole position, 102nd of his career. every lap, took a dominant win over 25 seconds ahead championship rival Max Verstappen. Verstappen would deny Hamilton a Grand Slam by taking the fastest lap count.
Just about to message someone should get out there on the track, and it looks like Nikki in the Williams was ready to do that before I even got my message out. Awfully quiet in the pit lane as we listen to some of the announcements. This is a little bit more interesting for strategy. You have to decide if you want to be out there alone. You have the track to yourself. You don't have to worry about anyone potentially impeding your best lap. On the flip side, you sometimes want to get a slipstream from one of the drivers. So if you can get out behind a few of them, you can dip into their slipstream, pick up precious tenths or hundredths of a second. And I imagine this quali will be pretty close by the end of it. We do have the top two drivers separated by just over a tenth of a second. And then third place, Nikki, who we're watching right now, is about 7/10 away from pole position in the race. He is in a good spot, however, of a decent car, and he is a decent driver. I imagine race day will be hard to beat, but it's not impossible, especially with him behind the wheel of the Tauri tonight. And you can see the other drivers are now out on the track, all of them on their out lap, and that will get tricky for Nikki because those drivers will be warming their tires, taking their time to make sure there's a decent gap in front of them. He might be catching up to the back of the pack, which I believe is Travis Scott's. Depending on how he plays his pace, he may have to make a pass. Now, Travis should pull to the side, which he is. He will let Nikki through on this lap, but when every millisecond counts, it's a little tricky to get through some of these drivers. Nikki should be all clear from here on out, so we will see if he can jump anywhere other than third. And he improves his time by a tenth of a second, but that is not enough to change the outcome of this race. So we will look to Chief Braids in the McLaren, who is going faster. Looked about half a second, so he will be fighting for fourth unless he picks up some more time here in the last corner at the end of Sector 3. And we'll have a couple more drivers behind him. Both AlphaTauris are on his tail, followed by Nikki in the Williams. Chief Braids jumps up into fourth. And we now have Mackie going up in the pole position. Race Day in second. And VTech in the Alpine staying in third. Now, they do have an opportunity for one more lap, but I don't know if anyone realized that. We don't have any of the checkered flags. Gavilan in Ferrari going into the pits, so that will do it for him. Cali Robb coming across with his one and only here in Q3. And it's enough to jump into fourth. Now, it looks like the two AlphaTauris of Mackie and Race Day are taking their time around the track. Travis Scott Going to jump up into 6. He's going to swap with VTech. That'll do it for him. VTech overtime, Chief Braids overtime. So I believe that does it for the grid tonight. Looks like a tentative pole position for Mackie Marquis in AlphaTauri, followed by his teammate Race Day and Fuse Rogue in the Mercedes in 3rd. We'll then start with Callie Robb in 4th, Nikki in 5th, Travis Scott's in 6th, VTech in 7th, Chief Braids in 8th, and Gabby Land in 9th.
Much of the world has become increasingly aware of sustainability issues over the last few decades.
And there are the final results for Q3. Mackie Marquis, a Canadian, will take pole position in the AlphaTauri, followed by his teammate Race Day, and then Fuse Rogue, the Mercedes, in 3rd. We'll be back in just a moment with the rest of the grid for the Formation Lab at the Lusail International Circuit. right, race fans, get ready to rumble in the desert. We're live at the Lusail International Circuit in Qatar for the MidWest eSports F1 Interdivision Invitational. This track demands skill as much as speed. Its long main straight tests raw engine power, leading into a series of sweeping high-speed corners where downforce is king. Drivers will need nerves of steel as they tackle the blind double apex turns that tighten unexpectedly. Then, it's a fight for traction through the technical low-speed section where precision braking and smooth exits are crucial if you want to carry momentum onto the next straight. But here's the twist. This race is turning the F1 world upside down. We've got drivers from all four divisions facing off. Division 1 veterans will be fighting for survival in the slower cars, while Division 4 rising stars will be pushing the limits in championship contenders. From that, we do have the starting grid for tonight's race from top to bottom. Best car to worst car. Red Bull will have Bill 123 and Moose MTZ. McLaren has the drivers Chief Braids and Monkey Mafia, while Ferrari has the drivers Gabby Land and Peter DRH. Driving for Mercedes is Lost Mandingos and Fuse Rogue. Aston Martin will have Andrew Mason and Valentine 94. Alpine has the talents of VTech 87 and Knuckles 89, while Haas will be going with some veterans Travis Scott and Ray 61924. We also have Williams hiring the drivers of Nikki 64 and Mac. Alfa Romeo Racing having Callie Robb and Sharia Coleslaw. And finally, in AlphaTauri, we have Gabbyland 23 and Peter DRH. I believe there were some car changes from these graphics, so we will see them on the track in just a moment. But I can also mention that realistic performance is on, so expect the unexpected. These cars do perform differently, and the drivers aren't used to some of the handling that we'll see out on the track tonight. So it's going to be an interesting clash of experience and ambition. Get ready for the Midwest Esports F1 Interdivision Invitational. And we'll pop that away for now. Bring it back up if we need to. Unfortunately, I did not have the creative writing skills of Nick to get through that intro, but I believe he also uses the services of Google Bard and Google Gemini. So it helped along nicely, but I also wanted to bring some new updated graphics that we had there with the driver lineup. I'm excited to have to change colors once we get into the Kick, Stake, Sauber F1 neon green, and then we have the RB Racing Bulls. Those are more logos to change for next, but we have the formation lap, and we can see the full rundown of drivers from top to bottom. We do have an interesting spread. We do have Tauri, one of the slower cars, taking 1-2. Then we have a good mix from there on out. We also have the possible race strategies powered by AWS of a medium to hard, I believe, or a soft medium. We'll be going for 29 laps today around Lusail International Circuit. This is the Qatar Grand Prix. Just mixing that up with one of the other ones in my head. And we'll see exactly what kind of risk drivers are looking to take tonight. This is an interesting one. It isn't for any sort of season points. This is just for personal glory. We also have a mix of tires here on the start. The majority of drivers going with mediums. But Cali Rob and Moose MTZ opting to start on the hards. And just a handful of drivers starting on those soft tires. And here we have the final few drivers pulling up to their grid box spots. We have a pair of Aston Martins at the end and a pair of AlphaTauris at the top. Expect some chaos here off the start. We have drivers from 4 different divisions driving all of the cars. And here we go for the Midwest Interdivision Invitational 2024. Part 1, maybe. We already have a Red Bull going off track slightly, but Mackie Marquis holding on to the one, but being pushed by his teammate Race Day going around the corner. Race Day going to go wide on around the outside and take over first here at the start of the race. We also have a couple other drivers changing positions. That Red Bull was Moose MTZ getting a poor start, dropping down 5 into 20th. But so far, so good in terms of racing incidents. Do have Fuse Rogue in the Mercedes, looking to make a move here on Mackie Marquis early on in tonight's race. Looks like we have Knuckles in the Alpine dropping down a couple of positions, down in 18th right now, with the Aston Martin Valentine getting close as well. Meanwhile, both Ferraris are sneaking up on the rear of the driver in front of them. We're on board with Gavilan in the Ferrari, following closely behind Travis Scott in the Haas. Travis Scott's had a good start to the season, from what I remember, in Division 1. And now Gavilan going for the pass, and does so successfully, moving up into 7th. Looks like we also have Cali Rob and VTech battling in turn 1. But VTech is able to hold off for now, keep that 4th place position. Tria Coleslaw now the next car looking to challenge Travis Scott's in front. And once again, we get the possible race strategies. Drivers on soft tires may pit around 12 or 13 and medium around 14 or 15 and go on to hards for the end of the race. Tria Coleslaw making a nice move on the inside. Travis Scott's unable to hold that track, and his teammate Ray slips past him up into 9th place. Travis Scott's and Ray continuing to battle, and Travi taking his position back for now. Looks like it will stay that way for just a minute. Gabriellan now closing in on Nicky in the Williams in front of him. Gonna get a nice slipstream here down the final straight. Fastest lap goes to Mackie Marquis up in the top. These drivers getting within 0.2 of a second of each other. Nice pack up here in front, followed by a 2-second gap to 4th. And this will be interesting to see if any of these drivers decide to race like a team tonight, or if it is every man for themselves. Race Day and Mackie Marquis were not teammates just in the season that completed. So both of them may be pushing for the win today, and Fuse Rogue sitting just behind them, waiting for his opportunity. Now the battle going on for 13th and 14th between Chief Braids and Los Mandingos. Looks like Chief Braids is able to get past that Mercedes, and he is clear for now. Ill Bill in the Red Bull, now behind Los Mandingos. He is about half a second back, but we do have DRS enabled now, so drivers will be picking up that extra speed boost as they head down the first finish line straight. This is the only section on the track where there is DRS, so the only spot where we will see some of those major moves at top speeds, such as Mackie Marquis taking the lead back. We have Cali Rob going over VTech, Gabby Land going over Nicky. We have Peter DRH over Travis Scotts. This is the section for passing out on the track. Now you do need to keep that 1 second gap to have DRS enabled. So the top 3 will be slipping further and further away from Cali Rob right now. They are now 3 seconds clear of 4th. To answer my mom's question, we did not get a forecast. I don't believe there will be rain tonight. I didn't see tires pop up on the strategy, and I think for a show race, there wouldn't be rain, but I do not know. Would add an interesting twist to this. Looks like Ill Bill 1, 2, 3 in the Red Bull, able to get past Chief Braids. He is now clear of both McLarens. And those were the top 2 cars on the grid earlier today. Red Bull followed by McLaren. He is now the highest out of those 4 drivers, sitting in 14th, 1.5 seconds behind Los Mandingos and the other Mercedes. We have Chief Braids pulling into the pits. Did not see what went on there, but potentially some damage to the car, either swapping out a wing or checking for more underbody damage. And we already have Fuse Rogue with a 3-second time penalty for multiple track limits or warnings. This one is notorious, and that now puts Cali Rob just half second out of 3rd. Now Fuse Rogue can either serve that penalty in the pits, or it will be added on to his time at the end of the race. We're on board with Nicky in the Williams, getting right on the tail of VTech in the Alpine. 2 blue cars, and he'll be looking to go for a pass. He might be able to get it done before the finish line straight, but he may want to hold off just to get that DRS with that detection zone coming up just before here in the corner. It ends up going wide though on the track. Loses a bit of distance. We now have Race Day taking back the lead once again. We have Nicky going up into 6th over VTech. And looks like Knuckles, Ilbill, and the Aston Martins all battling it out too. Back up at the top, we do have Mackie Marquis oversteering and losing the rear on his car a little bit. Sliding. Is able to hold on the second for now, but Fuse Rogue is now right on his tail. Mackie Marquis jumps up and Race Day falls behind. Didn't see if Race Day went off track or if he intentionally swapped with his teammate there to get him back on pace a bit. We have Chief Braids in the McLaren retiring from the session, so there must have been damage to that car that was unfixable in the pit lanes. So the first DNF of the night. And here we have another battle up at the top in the DRS zone. Looks like Race Day is going to shoot past his teammate on the inside once again. And Mackie gets slightly pushed to the outside. More movement down in the middle. And these top 3 have just been so close through these first 7 laps of the race. They've built up to a 4-second gap on Cali Rob. Looks like Ilbill 1, 2, 3 has spun out on the track, gets his car back around, and he will drop down to 19th. Seems that the front wing is still there, so he will make sure that the car is okay to continue racing. And we now have Race Day and Mackie Marquis starting to put 7/10 gap over Fuse Rogue. Might be able to escape his chase here in just a few laps. It'll be 1, 2, 3, picking up a 3-second penalty for track limits as well. It's like the 4th driver to do so tonight. Mackie's now going to take over first. Seems like these drivers may just be trading back and forth for the majority of this race, going easy on each other, make sure no one causes an accident up in the front. You have Moose MTZ in the Red Bull heading into the pits as well. And Ilbill from his spin seems to be okay. He's staying out on track. Checking in on the position change so far, 8 laps into the race, Gabby Land, perhaps the biggest mover in the Ferrari, moving up 5 spots in the 4th place. We also have both of the Aston Martins moving out of 19th and 20th to 14th and 15th. Meanwhile, Travis Scott in the Haas drops 7 positions down to 13th. Valentine in the Aston Martin also picking up a 3-second time penalty. And just one pass happening so far. We have Sharia Coleslaw and Nikki battling it out for 6th place. We have VTech 87 joining the fight as well. And that's going to make for an interesting 3-way battle going through these slow corners on this track. It's always the downside of battling with another driver for several corners back to back. Eventually, the driver behind both of you is going to close that gap and then become the third member of your party. I think it's a lot more awkward going through those corners. We now have Callie Robb in the Alfa Romeo getting back into 4th place, and some more drivers battling. Looks like VTech is stopping in the pits, so he'll be switching to a new set of tires. Coming out of the pits with hard tires, so he may look to go to the end of the race here. I believe be one of the first drivers, excuse me. Yes, the first driver to go on to his potential final tire for the race. Another good battle going on in 10th through 12th between Travis Scott, Peter, and Ray Ray. They will all be fairly close. And we have Gabby Land picking up a 3-second time penalty. You can now see why this track is pretty tricky. We have 5 time penalties currently on the sheet of 19 drivers, and I know a few of them have been served in the pit. So even more, Travis Scott picking up yet another. He's going to go into the pits, get that tire change, and serve those time penalties, I believe. And our current race leaders of Mackie Marquis, Race Day, and Fuse Rogue, the top 3 have a 6.5-second gap over 4th. We then have Callie Robb and Gabby Land, 4th and 5th, and a 6-second gap to 6th, and a 6-second gap to 7th. Pack is starting to spread out a little bit, but I believe most of those drivers have yet to take their pit stop. Looks like the top 11 drivers have yet to stop, and a couple more after that. So we'll see how these tire strategies play out through the rest of the race here at Lusail. Can also turn into a game of cat and mouse between the top 3 drivers, who will be the first to go into the pits, and then they will try to undercut the drivers if they rest behind and decide to stay out. We've sometimes seen some pretty tricky moves from drivers where they'll feint that they're going to go into the pit and then last moment stay out and try and throw off some of the drivers behind them. Ooh, and we have possible contact between Shria Coleslaw and Valentine. Saw them going wheel to wheel in the corner. And both of them slightly losing grip on their cars, but able to correct it. Shria Coleslaw will be the one to take 14th position out of that mix-up, though. It's like we now have Race Day and Fuse Rogue in the pits, Mackie deciding to stay out, as well as Cali Rob in the Alfa Romeo. And I'm receiving update from Houdini in the chat that time penalties cannot be served in pit stops unless it is a 5-second pit lane speed violation or a 5-second for causing contact. So my apologies there. I do remember some of those penalties being served earlier or in last season, but they were in fact 5-second penalties. So these drivers are racking them up, and we can take a look where we have several drivers with 3 seconds added to their time, Il Bill with 6, and then Valentine and Travis Scott with 12 seconds of penalties. That'll be added to the end of the race. So we could see some interesting position jumps at the end of all of this. What is surprising, though, so far, and I will knock on wood, we have had no incidents involving a safety car tonight, which does help to speed this race along and get it wrapping up at a normal time for us here on the East Coast, even though this is the Midwest eSports Formula One Racing League. And after the pit stops, it looks like we have kept Mackie, Race Day, and Fugue all next to each other, although they're in 5th, 6th, and 7th for right now. They're going to start to work their way through the rest of this pack. They are just a second behind Lost Mandingos, who is in 4th. Valentine in the Aston Martin picking up another 3-second time penalty. I believe that might be 15 seconds for him. Race Day making a move on his teammate, taking back the lead out of the team. And some of the other drivers in front of them going into the pits. So now Cali Rob is the driver up in first, yet to take his pit stop, has a 13-second gap on Race Day, who is in second. Unfortunately, once he pits, he will lose that gap, and in fact, he will probably come out in the 4th to 6th range based on the amount of time it'll take for him to complete his stop. But now Mackie Marquis has picked up a 3-second time penalty. So that could hurt his chances. Him and Race Day have been trading spots out here on the track for the first half of this race. But 3 seconds is a significant gap, and one that I don't believe he could get on Race Day. But we have seen weirder things happen throughout all of these races. Almost all of our lead drivers at some point have DNF'd in a race. And we saw both Scarenzi and Race Day having DNFs just last season, but Race Day setting the fastest lap on hard tires with a 1:25.124. Impressive stuff from him. Robb is now going into the pits. So we'll see where he can come out from at the end. But it does look like both of the AlphaTauris will sail just past him. You can see them coming down the finish line while Robb is pulling into his pit lane stop. Fuse Rogue will be going into the pits though. So it will be up to Gabby Land to see if he can also get in front of Robb, who will be exiting the pits here in just a moment. And he's got 3 drivers coming up on the outside of the track. He now can take off, and Gabby Land gets past, but he will be in front of VTEC. So Robb comes out of the pits into 4th place, and he is on the medium tires. So he did start on the hard. He should have slightly quicker lap times here for the second half of this race. And he is the only driver around him on the leaderboard that is on medium tires. The rest are on hard, so he should have decent pace. Unfortunately, he is 13 seconds behind Gabby Land. Or no, he's 1 second behind Gabby Land. Gabby Land is 14 seconds behind Race Day. So Robb has a chance at the podium here. Would be a hard climb for him to get all the way up into second to challenge Race Day or Mackie here at the end. They do have time penalties, however, at least Mackie does. So if those continue and Robb can keep a clean race, he could still have a chance at this one. And Robb, getting the benefit of the DRS, will make his move up into 3rd. Just 1 lap after exiting the pits. And is now in front of Gabby Land. He has about 13 seconds to catch up to Race Day, who is in 2nd. And 11 laps to do so. We do have a nice cluster of drivers in 10th through 13th with Gunnar, Peter, Fuse, and Ray. All sitting within a second of each other, so all enjoying the benefits of a nice DRS train. Ray for now sitting behind those 3, but that can be an advantage position in a race. You can start to let those 3 battle it out with each other, go into these corners and wait for his opportunity, either with DRS or just in a lucky corner. See if he can continue to get that Haas up in the grid. We have Mackie Marquis setting a new fastest lap with a 1:24 as he sits in 1st place in the race. We can see the Apostle shuffling up in front with Gunnar in the Williams going slightly wide. Ray inching up on those drivers. Trevi Scott starting to take off in front. But we're now in the DRS section, so we'll see who can make a move. Looks like Peter DRH will be able to go around Gunnar. And Ray just doesn't have enough room to go 3 wide and make any sort of attack. Peter is going to hold that 11th place, and Ray looking to go through on the inside, but just loses the car a bit and almost took that position from Gunner, and then was able to catch the car in time. So for now, he will stay in 13th. Up at the top, we have Mackie Marquis in the lead. But with his 3-second penalty, he is just in second, but he is about to pull 3 seconds in front of Race Day, and that is now enough. So if Mackie Marquis can keep up this gap, he will take home a victory in the race. But as we mentioned, Cali Robb on the medium tires has shaved 2 seconds off of that gap over the past 2 laps. So if he can continue that pace, it will be close for him. He will need to be over a second per lap to have a shot at the win, but he's starting to close in on our leaders. Gabby Lane, who is 3 seconds behind Cali Robb, is actually 6 seconds after the penalty in 4th, so he will be fairly close to VTEC. And our current race leader in penalty seconds is Valentine in the Aston Martin with 24 seconds added on to his time. That will be enough to push him down into 18th and potentially 19th by the end of this. And I missed the reason, but Race Day going into the pits once again. So Cali Robb moving up into second. Race Day is going to put medium tires on for the end of the race. Looking to pick up a bit more pace, maybe set the fastest lap. Just currently held by Mackie with a 1:24.636, but Cali Robb with a 1:24.663. We have a warning for a caution flag up, but do not see it on track. Meanwhile, Race Day is going to go past Sharia Coleslaw, move up into 5th. He's going to try to work his way back through this pack. See if he can get back up into podium position, but he is... It's like 8 seconds off of 4th, 12 seconds off of 3rd, but with the penalties, be about 9 seconds off. Race Day now picking up a 3-second penalty though, and that will cause more of a problem for his chance to reach the podium. It also puts him behind 5th and 6th. It would put him into 6th place right now. Moose MTZ in the Red Bull has DNF, it looks like. That happened just in turn 1, but he is now off the track. So now we have a Red Bull and a McLaren. Out of the race, we still have Ill Bill and Monkey Mafia in those cars. Now I have a group of 4 heading through the finish line. Looking to go 3 wide. Oh! And what looked to be a cheeky move maybe by Nicky in the Williams going on the outside. One of the drivers may have picked up damage. I think I saw a winglet rip off. And it may be Sharia Coleslaw, although he looks okay. Those drivers continuing to battle 3 wide through those corners. Getting intense here in the final 6 laps of the Interdivision Invitational for Midwest eSports. Their current leader, Mackie Marquis in the AlphaTauri, followed by Callie Robb and then Gabby Land, but multiple time penalties to factor in at the end of this race, which will make for some difficult math trying to call this at the very end. But we will see the results, shortly after. Tria Coleslaw pulling into the pits may have been him to pick up a little bit of damage on his car. Trevor Scott's picking up another 3-second time penalty. Trevor Scott's up to 15 seconds. Peter DRH picking up another. He's up to 9 seconds. This one is very challenging for these drivers. Both with having realistic performance turned on, so cars handled differently. Driving cars you're not familiar with, maybe driving with different assists, and this track just being a beast for track limits in general. Getting a lot of time added up here. Looking at the movement from the starting order of this race, Kelly Robb has moved from 4th into 2nd, Gabby Land from 9th into 3rd, and Lost Man Dingoes from 14th into 8th. They're the biggest movers today. We now have Monkey Mafia retiring in the McLaren. So now 3 DNFs, 3 of the 4 of the top 2 cars out here on the grid. Ill Bill still alive in the Red Bull. He seems to be racing under the same strategy I do sometimes in endurance, where keeping the car alive is all that matters. You just race your race, let other drivers crash out, and finish where you finish. We have Lost Man Dingoes looking to make a move on Nicky, although he already has the position thanks to Nicky's penalties. Still feels good to get those additional passes through out on track. And looks like we have a maybe caution flag, but I think they were just passing Monkey Mafia's McLaren that was out in Sector 1. Now we'll see what a pass using DRS looks like from first person as Lost Man Dingoes goes past Nicky into turn 1 and then has to slow down enough to still catch the corner, but he is able to do so. He moves up into 5th. It is now 10 seconds back on race day. Travis Scott's now retiring from the session in a Haas. And looks like he ended his night in pit lane. Was able to make it back, but unable to fix the damage to his car. So we have just 16 drivers left in tonight's race. We do have a caution flag going out here in Sector 1. Looks like the Haas car may still be going out on track, albeit very slowly. It does look like it is struggling to get through the corners. Who would that be? That would be Ray out on the Haas on hard tires. I believe just letting cars go that are a lap ahead. I may be wrong there. Up at the top, we have Race Day and Gabilan battling for that final podium position. Race Day able to get up into 3rd. Both of them carrying 3-second penalties, so where they are able to finish matters. They have about 5 seconds to the driver in front, 8 seconds after their time penalty, and 8 seconds to the drivers behind. So they will probably finish 3rd and 4th, but they can flop that order. We also have Nicky with a 3-second penalty, so he'll be looking to keep a 3-second gap over VTEC down below. And Sharia Coleslaw down in the Alfa Romeo, setting a fastest lap. Meanwhile, Valentine in the Aston Martin spins out, goes off track, which means Ilbil moves up into 15th. He has moved up 3 positions so far in today's race. And we have just 2 laps to go. Up at the top, it has been relatively smooth sailing for Mackie Marquis after his teammate Race Day had to go into the pits for an additional stop. 2 of them were trading position for the first half of the race, but he now has an 11-second gap over 2nd place, which is Cali Robb in the Alfa Romeo. 3rd place will have a battle going between Race Day and Gavilan that will last the final lap. And then Nicky 13 seconds behind in the Williams for 5th, followed by a pair of Mercedes. We also have a caution flag out here in Sector 3. Looks like it might be one of the Aston Martins struggling with his car. That would be Valentine. He is going to limp back here into the pits. Meanwhile, Mackie is out on the final lap of the race. Looking to take a victory lap around the circuit. Valentine is now retired from the session for Aston Martin. A couple caution flags up, but I believe drivers are letting others past just based on laps. And we have a 10-second time penalty from Peter for corner cutting. So 19 seconds will be added to his time. And as Valentine says in the chat, not a single safety car. We do have about half a lap to go. 1 full lap for the last place drivers, but Mackie Marquis in the AlphaTauri, in one of the worst performing cars, will take home the victory in the Midwest eSports Interdivision Invitational, followed by Callie Robb, the Alfa Romeo, in second. And a battle at the finish line here. We have Race Day going way off track and crashing, so he will drop to fourth. Gabby Land taking third. Nikki in fifth. And it looks like Fuse Rogue will cross the line but lose some time, so VTech will in fact take sixth place. Fuse will just let him cross the finish line where he will in fact finish. Makes it easier for us here, but they are nicely slowing down. We do have Gunner and Lost Man Dingos, but Gunner will have a 6-second time penalty applied to him. And a lot of drivers clustering up as they cross the finish line. This one, being an invitational, being in the off season, must be fun for these guys. You have all 4 divisions, you have different handling cars, tricky circuit, you don't know what to expect. You have Race Day's car crashed off in the corner. And with just a few drivers left to cross, Peter DRH from corner cutting builds up to 40 seconds of time penalties. Bill has crossed the line. Looks like Peter DRH will be the final car to cross and get that time. Couple leaving the session as well, so that'll change the results. And hearing from Lost Man Dingos that he ran out of fuel. That can in fact happen. Not too frequently, but we've seen it a couple times here where they just happen to run out of fuel at the end. And an epic victory scene once again for Mackie Marquis as they bust out the champagne, celebrate a fantastic race here in Midwest eSports. We also got a message from tonight's victor of Mackie Marquis. We'll see how this comes across for you listening back at home.
Guys, GG, race day. Good job working together for those first stint and then a little bit on the second stint. That was some damn good teamwork, buddy. And GG to everyone else. That was fun.
Obviously very happy with his performance in the AlphaTauri and the sportsmanship from his teammate Race Day in the other AlphaTauri, helping him out through that first half of the race, working together beautifully. Hope you enjoyed watching the Midwest F1 Interdivision Invitational race. Don't have Nick with me, don't have the cameras turned on, so won't have much time for a proper sign off, but thank you for watching. Looking forward to covering more races in the next season starting soon here at Midwest. Very special thanks goes out to our YouTube members who support us, executive producers Bone Crusher 2D, Coach 34, and my mom, co-producers Captain Snowbeard, Killa Vapor, and Kirsten, and our fans and fans plus. You can become a member as well. Help support the channel if you hit join down below. There's a monthly fee, but we use that to do all of our production assets, our music licensing, everything that we put into the videos comes out of those funds. You get some cool perks too, early access to some of our videos, the badge next to your name. I think it lists the rest down there. There's some cool emojis you can use as well. If not, though, just subscribe too. That helps us out immensely. And you will get something cool playing during the stream if you do it. You'll hear everyone's favorite radio message sound from the F1 races with your name up on the side. Other than that, I think we have other links, other places. Check those out. But that's it. Thank you for watching tonight. Have a good one.